Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here with TGI Sports Talks MLB update. I hope everyone's doing well. We're going to talk a little Major League Baseball here in the middle of March Madness, which is going fairly well for yours truly, but we'll see if that continues throughout today and the weekend, and we'll update you later. Not to talk too much NCAA because that's not what we're here for. I want to welcome everybody watching today on Facebook, on TGI Sports Talks Facebook page, YouTube page, or even on Twitter. And also we're live on Northeast Streaming Sports on their Roku channel. You can download that by having a Roku app and then for free downloading the Northeast Streaming Sports channel. You can watch my giant head on your screen. Let's Talk Sports. We're live on their YouTube stream as well. Welcome, everybody. We're quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media, specifically the Sports Corner that he does every week with Smoking Jim Frazier on WBVP 1230 AM 99.3 FM. I'll be on with Ralph and Jim on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. They're on from 4 to 6 every Tuesday. And Ralph does some other great stuff as well. And thumbs up DDH. And shout out to all of the baseball groups. And I'll start to single them out. I'll start with America's favorite pastime group, run by Greg Rawlings. And he'll get the first shout out here on Major League Baseball. Quick programming note: Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. I'll get the reminder up this weekend. We will be doing our live preview show. Myself and our my local baseball guru Drew Ehrlich, who actually I just saw pop in the room. Good morning. Yes, I did say good morning. It is afternoon. I actually moved time zones, Drew. I'm in Hawaii. Looked so nice while you were there. I thought I'd go. Oh, God. Anyway, Drew, in all transparency, is also my brother-in-law. We will be doing the live MLB preview show Tuesday night, live right here on TGI Sports Talks YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages. We'll be on the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube and Facebook pages, and probably Let's Talk Sports YouTube page as well. And we'll let you know when it airs. It'll air on Roku at some point as well, but not live. We're going to take comments. I talked to Drew, and it'll be a long show. We're going to go through every division, so we won't talk too much about. We can talk whatever you guys want to talk about today, but we won't talk a ton of preview stuff. We can, again, we'll jump into it. Drew and I are going to get into division by division. Make our predictions. We'll make playoff predictions. We'll make some postseason award predictions. Some will be good, some will be bad. And that's the way that it goes. But we'll do that. Today, I want to get into, and again, this show is partly yours, so you can jump in with whatever topics turn you on. We started with a couple of games in Korea. And first of all, why are we playing baseball in Korea 2 weeks before the regular season even starts? Not fair to those teams, not fair to their fans in my mind, losing those games. Not fair to baseball fans in general, 6 a.m. games. In the West Coast, Danny Fuller, 3 a.m. I know you were getting up because you're a Dodger fan. Yamamoto gets hammered, one of the big stories. We've certainly got the Ohtani story. Is this going to be something that dogs the Dodgers all year long? This gambling, first we've got a gambling probe, I guess, into his interpreter, which we'll talk a little bit about. $4.5 million. A lot of contrary conversation here. First it was said he paid off his debt. Then it was said he knew nothing about his gambling activities. I'm wondering if there's not something else going on here. I don't know. I don't know for a fact, for sure, but we'll jump into it as much as we need to. Boros' last Well, not last. Montgomery's still out there. Snell signs with who do you sign with? The Astros, right? For not a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's all relative, right? But gosh, when you think that these guys were all looking at, hundreds of millions of dollars, and I mean, they may have signed collectively, the four guys that have signed anyway, for less than maybe he was going to get for Bellinger, let's say. Again, over a number of years. So he's also involved in a potential. I hear the music's still playing here. Sorry about that. He's also involved in defending the current Players Association leadership, which they want some changes on. But has Scott Boras lost his juice, or people want to stay away from Scott Boras' clients? I don't know what the deal is there. And we'll talk. The Mets do sign J.D. Martinez, so he is off the market. Don't believe he was a Boras client, though. What else happened? We talked about Yamamoto getting hammered. We'll talk about Senga, who's going to begin throwing for the Mets. If he's not pitching, his team's in trouble. Lorenzen signs a one-year deal with the Rangers. And there's some other news here too. And we'll get to all of that. Ian, your comments. Let's see who's here with us and chatting up already. We already said hello to Drew, and I know I misspoke with the good morning. Good afternoon to JB and the JB. That's a JB, but the Back It Up Binge podcast. Check out JB's stuff. Already some good. Let's play some ball already. You know what though? These early games, how are they faring to the Dodgers and the Padres? First of all, they get less training time. Now they're going to be back to spring training now for a week or whatever. But how is it fair? Not even a week, I guess, now that I think about it. Yeah, probably a week. But how's it fair to them, their fans? I just don't like this. Let's go to Korea and play 2 games, I don't know. Not a ton of pitching going on in Korea. No, I mean, geez, Yamamoto, could he had a worse debut? 1 inning he pitched, gave up 5 runs, I think. Was it 5 runs? Let's get this right. Let's get this right, shall we? What was that, Wednesday? Oh, no, I think that was yesterday, maybe. Well, it wasn't that day because it was 5-2 that day. Ohtani played well. It was funny, by the way. The whole Ohtani thing, the story breaks in the morning, and there's video of him yucking it up with his translator. I'm going to say his trainer earlier, but it's his translator. He was yucking it up. Maybe I'm missing something. And this whole thing smells really funny to me. I don't really know why. Michael King, my favorite pickup for the Padres this year, former Yankee, gets the win in this game, goes 3 innings, doesn't pitch great. This is the second game. Yamamoto gets a loss, gives up 4 hits, 5 runs, did strike out 2 in an inning. So if you got him on your fantasy roster, don't look at his stats for a while. Oh, God. I don't know what these I didn't see any of these games, quite frankly. They did start at 6 a.m. I could have turned them on, as I started my day here in my office and my studio. By the way, I fixed the lighting. I've been working on the lighting this week, and I think we finally got ourselves back to where we were previously. I don't see a lot of distortion or, pixeling in the corners. So hopefully we've got this pretty close to worked out. I might do a little bit more. And how many pitchers? My God, they went through. See, these guys aren't ready to pitch anyway. Even in the previous game to this, right? So they used 2, 4, 6, 7 pitchers on the Dodgers, and 6 pitchers for the Padres. And then the day before, let's go to the day before. It was 5-2 Dodgers, so they split this series 1-1. They still use a ton of pitchers. So what's the point? I mean, the Dodgers use 5 pitchers that day. Hudson gets the win. And the Padres go through 2, 4, 6, 8 pitchers. And I mean, you're playing. Oh, man, I just don't get it. Jamie doesn't mind starting in Korea. No, but this, you know what? I already have a problem with Major League Baseball and how they start the season anyway. Do you remember? If you're old enough, because I don't know how long it's been since they took it away, Cincinnati, because they were the original MLB team, if you will, had the honor of a standalone opening day for decades. Decades. This is one of the problems I have. Again, baseball refuses to honor its history. They continue to turn their back on, like, it doesn't matter. And I understand that I always come off like this. Here's the old guy yelling at kids to get off his lawn. And maybe that is me, but is there a sport? Is there a sport that refuses to look at its history more than Major League Baseball these days? They will not honor their history. They pretend to. Maybe I've just lost it. Anyway, JB says it's a business decision. Why? I mean, you think it's a great business decision for the Dodgers, and maybe I guess for the Dodgers and Padres, they probably make it worth their while monetarily. But you know, they're losing home games here, home crowds, home concessions, home parking, home everything, and a home game, which might very well mean a lot in this division. And then this whole scandal breaks with Ohtani. Is this going to haunt the Dodgers all year? Or is it just going to go away? Giants. How did I get the Astros? Sorry. Thank you, Drew. I have had, it's been a rough day. It's working for a living is rough. Yeah, we'll chat about that waste of money. Again, and it's funny, and I could be mistaken, Drew, but I think you and I had debated about his. I know that you thought he'd be a bad signing for the Yankees, and obviously now by this comment, and maybe I'm misremembering our back and forth here during the winter that I said Snell was the same kind of guy as Rendon. I mean, he's got 2 Cy Youngs, I get it, but the 4 years in between, injuries, bad pitching. Even last year, he led the league in walks. Thank God he signed with the Giants and not with the Yankees. Now, the Yankees are still strapped for starting pitching, and I'll talk a little more about Marcus Stroman. That was the other thing. I think I wrote I guess I didn't make a note of it, but we'll talk about this if you like. I talked about it last week. Marcus Stroman declines the honor of opening day because he doesn't want to change his schedule. Now, quite frankly, the Yankees now backed this up because Boone said he didn't want him off his schedule. They only offered it to him out of deference to his tenure in the league, not with the team. But Marcus Stroman says when he said no, he had no idea what was going on and why fans were all in an uproar. And there was. I'm not the only guy who was in an uproar about this. But how can you be so out of touch to not understand why this would touch a nerve with people? And we will discuss Snell. And I want to talk about Boris in general. Every one of his guys had to sign short-term contracts, which is fine. And now Boris is claiming, he doesn't understand. To me, he's tiptoeing around the collusion word. These teams try to rein in payroll, and every time they do it, they get charged with collusion. But again, Scott, a bunch of teams are out there spending a whole lot of money. Look at the Dodgers for one. God. Rick Sherlock, good afternoon. How are you? lots of coverage and people looking into it, the truth will come out. Again, the truth will come out because it almost always does, I guess, unless we're talking about fake moon landings. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not me. That's other crazy people. I did read a nice story, and I'm sure that some of the flat earthers would like that. Maybe I'll share it on my page, you crazy. Ugh. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that. The truth will come out, but there's a lot of contradictory information. Ohtani paid off his debts, made him promise it would never happen again, go get help. Now the money was stolen. Ohtani, this guy, what's this interpreter's name, by the way? I know I'm not going to be able to say it, but let's see what I can find here. And the reps for the Dodgers, actually the reps for Ohtani. Let's see. How is this? Am I reading this right? Reps for Dodgers Ohtani asked to investigate theft. Was it a theft, or I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is 1 minute where it's being claimed and Ohtani didn't say no, that he paid the debts were paid off, and now the money was a massive theft, which is being put in quotation marks here, by the way. I mean, by all claims, his interpreter, where is it? I'll never say this guy's name. Mizuhara, maybe I'm close. I won't say his first name. The theft allegation came after his spokesman initially told ESPN that the slugger had transferred the funds to cover gambling debts of Ohtani's former interpreter, Mizuhara. And then he turns around and says that's not true, and Ohtani knew nothing about his gambling. Something is weird, and I don't know what it is. So it's interesting. This story may not go away. I don't know. JD was a Boris. I thought he was. So he's really got Montgomery left. He might have other guys. I don't know. There's still a few guys out there. Montgomery, I don't know. Maybe he'll sign with the Yankees. I'm not really a huge fan. But we'll see what happens. What else we got here playing wise? Playing havoc with my fantasy teams. I have both Dodgers and Padres. It's funny. I went and picked up like Cronenworth, and he had a bad first game, and I think he did all right the second game. Just to get him in. I don't know. I just wanted to get into a little bit of I want to get a little action going here this weekend. So good afternoon, Danny Fuller out west. We're just talking about your Dodgers and Ohtani, and love to get your opinion on what's going on. I don't understand the story, and I don't understand the discrepancies in this story. You either stole the money or you didn't steal the money. It doesn't seem that hard. Why do we need an investigation? Ohtani's people came out and said they paid off the debt. Were they just trying to cover up the theft? Or did no theft happen and Ohtani knew all along, and now they're trying to cover up the fact that he knew it? I just don't get it. But good afternoon, Danny. Good to have you out there. I know you're a big Dodger fan. Sorry about Yamamoto. It's a long season, and I know, we can't get excited about one inning of one game, but not a great start. And again, unfair to me that these teams have to go over there and start the season and start it before they're really ready, probably. Boris' definition of collusion: when I ask for too much for my clients and teams sign everyone else's clients or just trade for other players instead. I get it. And you're right. You're absolutely right, Drew. But anytime, and this isn't just Scott Boros, but anytime the players, the teams decide, and I know you're not supposed to go and have conversations about what you're going to do. That's collusion, right? You've colluded to do whatever it is. If you're teaming up and having conversations to make looking for a certain outcome, then you've colluded, no matter what we're talking about, right? But why shouldn't Major League Baseball teams be able to try to rein in salaries if they want to do that? Again, it doesn't seem to me that that's where we're going, especially this time. I mean, they spent less money, but they spent like $4 billion last year in the offseason. This year they spent a little less because some of the major players weren't spending a lot. But that's because the Yankees traded for Soto, didn't wait to sign him as a free agent, let's say, because they're going to have to spend the money this year. The Mets, the Astros, the Angels, a lot of those teams didn't spend the way they have in the past. And if they decide that that isn't how they want to build their team, how is that, any type of collusion? Anyway, do we all agree that translation definitely is can be another problem? Do we all agree that translation definitely is and can be another problem? As far as Ohtani goes and what was said and what wasn't said, probably yes. I mean, I don't speak Japanese. I don't know that anybody in the Dodgers speaks Japanese except his translator. I mean, if he was lying, right, about Ohtani paying the debt, and why were they yucking it up in the why were they, again, unless the pictures I saw were made to look like yesterday, but he was in a Dodger uniform and they were yucking it up. It looked to me like in the dugout in Korea after the news had broken. So if Ohtani didn't know anything about it, why would he be? Again, I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but something is really kind of weird. But yes, the translation problem could definitely. I mean, Mizuhara could say whatever he wants. Who'd know what he said? Could start out as "I got you, buddy." Yeah. 4.5 million. How do you lose $4.5 million? By the way, that's a problem. He's betting on soccer. He should have been betting on baseball, apparently, this would have been a much bigger story. And hopefully that doesn't come about. And I pray to God, listen, I know I'm talking and making potential implications, I guess, on Ohtani. There's none. There is nothing that would seem to tie him towards any of this betting. And again, the betting seemed to have been on, if I remember right, European soccer and something else. But, oh, gosh. Don't bet on soccer. That's why soccer's bad. Soccer's bad. 4.5 million. Chris, good morning or good afternoon. I did it again. Good afternoon. Take two. I got skipped. Did you? Did I miss you? I did. I'm sorry. I apologize, buddy. My bad. I got this ring light shining right in my eyes. Sometimes it's not easy to read the screen, so I apologize. Thought I had more comments. I'm sure I didn't miss anything else. I would never skip you on purpose, my friend. I promise. Take two. Changes and changes and changes to rules. Yeah. All right. We'll ruin the game. We don't care. Again, we don't care about the history of baseball. We don't care, that forever bases were 90 feet apart. And they make changes which they think are little, like making the bases bigger. And they think it means nothing because, it's only whatever, an inch or I don't know what the actual dimensions change the baselines to. But listen, I don't need to be a math major to know if I make the bases bigger, I've made the baseline shorter. The distance between the bases shorter. Right? I mean, now it's not even uniform because the distance from first to second base is going to be less than a distance from home plate to first. And again, we're not talking about, I get it. We're not talking about feet, but watch a number of bang, bang plays, whether it's at first base or whether it's steal attempts at second base or third base. And they act like none of this matters. We artificially inflate stolen base numbers because of that. We can't throw over to first base. I guess I went off without even reading the rest of your conversation. Let's keep it positive on a TGIF. Your favorite changes? There are none. I don't have a single. I don't care. I'm not a big instant replay fan, Chris. Again, I don't want to sound negative, but I don't have any other way to be when every change, maybe not instant replay, maybe not running into the catcher, every other rule change I can think of favors the offense. Since 1968, I've gone on about this forever. Favors the offense. Lower the pitcher's mound, put in a DH, the ballparks get smaller, the baseballs get harder, the bats get harder. We worry about spin rate and spider tack and nonsensical things. As far as instant replay goes, I'm okay with human error. Human error was part of baseball and every other sport forever. And I said this before, and your argument's going to be, if you can get it right, you should get it right, and a team shouldn't lose on a totally blatant miscall, right? Galarraga's perfect game down the road. Jim Joyce never lived it down. But we wouldn't even remember that today. I think it was a no-hitter, not a perfect. I think it was a perfect game. The 1980, and I talk about this example all the time, the 1985 World Series. That World Series would have been lost in history if Don Denkinger doesn't blow the call in Game 6 at first base. It was obviously the game was over, order was out, and he called him safe. But we don't even remember it without that. So human error, again, has been part of sports for a long time. And yes, you want to get the calls right. But the expense of what? Endless replays? Using it for things it should never have been used for? In baseball, they put it in for home runs, basically. And egregious baseline calls. Now it's used because a guy picked up his freaking foot off of second base for a millisecond, and a guy's holding his glove there. This is what we want to do? This is what the rules bring? And as far as not railroading into the catcher, catchers know what they signed up for. This is the Buster Posey rule, and that only. People bring up Ray Fosse and Pete Rose. Ray Fosse was a decent player. And by the way, the next year was still having a good offensive year. They say it ruined his career, this whole all-star game, and Pete Rose railroading over him, to use Chris's words. And you're certainly entitled to that opinion, Chris. This is just me. That's part of the game, too. Some guys could take this like crazy. Mike Scioscia, remember Mike Scioscia blocking the plate? So it wasn't just that. You couldn't block the plate anymore either. Again, changes the game. Not a big fan. I'm sorry to be so negative, but again, when it gets to Major League Baseball, I'm of a certain age, and I understand, again, it sounds like me just screaming, get off my lawn. But Major League Baseball doesn't seem to get the way they've changed this game. Not for the better. The pitch clock, I wasn't for, and if you're going to make me pick a rule change, I'll take the pitch clock for one reason and one reason only. I don't have to stay up till midnight watching ball games that start on the East Coast every single night. Sometimes the Yankee games are over by 9:30, 9:45. I can still watch one of my other favorite shows before I got to go to bed, but you runner on second base. Again, you change the game. You diametrically change the game, and I just don't get it. Where's Alan? Alan just popping on to announce that Wyatt Langford is on the Rangers opening day roster. Super pumped for his debut. Well, I'm happy you're super pumped, Alan. I still pick your Rangers right now, and you'll probably hear more of it on our MLB preview show next Tuesday at 7 p.m., as I mentioned. Myself and Drew Ehrlich will be doing that show, and we're going to take comments. So I may skip over some comments that night, and I'll make an announcement then, because my guess is it's going to be a 3-hour show anyway. Without comments, I think we might have done it without comments last year. We can get it done in 2, and that's even a stretch, because he and I get going back and forth about some of this stuff, which is what I want the show to be, or we want the show to be. But I like getting you guys, on my shows, I want your guys' comments. So we're going to do it that way. And I'll probably have to, not spend as much time on each comment as we do. But Danny Fuller hates human error. I personally love replay and get the call correct. I'm trying to think of what sports don't have it. It's totally fine to have that opinion. And I get it. From me, human error was part of sports for a long, long time. And I don't think you can argue that some of the human error has led to some of the, has led to some historic moments in baseball. I get it. I'm sure the Cardinals in '85 wouldn't feel the same way I feel watching that game. I didn't have a horse in that race, and some of you may not remember it because I'm old, but nobody remembers the '85 World Series without Don Deckinger blowing that call. So today, those calls are reversed. And by the way, you can't argue with me that they bastardized that rule just like they bastardize every rule, Danny or Chris, into something it shouldn't be. Is the intent of the rule so that if I, hit a triple and I take my hand off the bag as I'm getting up for 2 seconds, that I should be called out? 2 seconds, a millimeter of a second sometimes. But it's happened. That's not the spirit of the rule. And you can't play hard anymore. You can't run into catchers. You can't take guys out at second base. I'll fire up this positivity train again. That's what happens on a Friday afternoon. I'm much better by Sunday morning. It depends on what it is. I can't help but be me. I can't pretend to be happy about things I'm not. It's just who I am. Player endorsements. Cubs fans remember Frank Thomas's Big Hurt beer. I think that'd be White Sox fans. A 7% malt liquor. No longer brewed. 7% alcohol. They were selling that in the ballparks in his time, because it was a long time, man. You in the States here, you couldn't even. Well, now you can get stuff that's 15% alcohol. But a malt liquor. Today today if he endorsed a malt liquor, it'd be racist probably. Labeled racist. So. Not a typo with the. Oh, really? My bad. I didn't read. I should have read farther. Not a typo with the Cubs. It was only at Wrigley Field. Why would they be selling Frank Thomas Big Hurt beer? Interesting. I love it. That's a good positive note. That's a historical fact that I would never have known. What was the time frame of that? Because, some of the ballpark, if you go back far enough again, gosh, I go back to a time where they weren't selling anything in some of the ballparks except LA beer for a while because of this is back in the 80s, because of fan behavior, if you will. Oh, Marquette's come back nicely at the start of the second half here, by the way. One of my Final Four teams. All the changes made it impossible to compare eras accurately. Well, that's a great point. You can't compare pitchers from before 1968 and after. Well, you can't compare pitchers anyway, not just because of rule changes, but because of the way pitchers approach the game, or I should say coaches and managers and the people developing pitchers approach the game. So you can't compare that. Eras are hard to compare anyway, right? But no DH versus a DH, the size of ballparks, the equipment. But it is. I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to get positive again. Cheerios official as well. Interesting. Didn't we think some of these guys would go down for service time issues, Drew? And if that's the case, I'm glad that teams are not looking at cost savings. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe Cheerio was not one of those guys. But I do believe that Allen's guy, Langford, we thought might get sent out for those types of reasons. But I'm glad he didn't, because these teams need to, and maybe with the expanded playoffs, it doesn't matter as much, but every game counts. And you don't want to, piss away a couple of months just to save a little bit of service time on a guy. You're going to have to pay him anyway, right? I don't understand these teams and their thinking when it comes to that. Holiday was actually reassigned. That's interesting. And I'm going to guess that is a service time thing. Orioles are making a huge mistake by doing this. Again, and I'm trying not to be negative about this, I'm taking the positive side of this. That little bit, I think I am, Chris. I may not be. But, to me, the service time situation is just like way overblown by these teams. If the guy's any good, you're going to have to pay him eventually. What's the difference whether it's a year later or not? Maybe that's Pollyannish. I don't know. Alan, our baseball show, which we usually go 2 hours covering all the teams. So, yeah, it'll take a bit. Well, Drew and I think, went over 2 hours just without. I think last year I did it without the live audience. I don't remember. I know we've done comments on it. We're going to do it with the comments on, because we want your guys' feedback. And I'll try to be much more positive. I'm just, again, it's my nature, Chris. And I mean, I hate to apologize for who I am, because it's just who I am. I'm not a negative person in general. I tend to be a very positive person. When it comes to sports, and especially when it comes to my teams, I'm not going to pretend. Things I love. If you affect the things I love, well, I'm not going to be the most positive guy in the world. You affect my family, I'm not going to be very positive towards you. You affect things I love, like the sports I love. I grew up with baseball, and you've basically taken away the game that I grew up loving and taught me a lot about life, man. Make sure Elton's working on the connection, Drew. Drew and I have found a pretty good... we have found a pretty good fix, I guess, or I should say workaround, because it's not really a fix, for his audio issues. I manipulate the sound from here because I just can't figure out for the life of me what's causing it on his end, but I can manipulate the audio feed here a little bit, change it to the settings when it starts to go bad, and so far we've been able to control it without him having to jump in and out. So when we've had him out on Fridays, we've done that, and I don't think we've had too many serious problems. New Mexico's getting blasted today. We'll get into the NCAA Sunday too a lot. We'll talk a lot about the NCAA first round and a half by that time. Connect Big Men are babying Stetson. I don't want to get into too much NCAA today. A little bit is fine. What was the deal with Nomar Garcia Perez decline? Did he debut on the juice and then went off it? Couldn't stay healthy. I don't remember. Chris, you're gonna chide me for being negative, and you bring up Nomar Garciaparra being on the juice. I don't remember Nomar, and boy, I tell you, Nomar's peak was really good. I remember when Derek Jeter came up, and as you know, most of you know, I'm a huge Yankee fan, huge. And I knew Derek Jeter was going to be a great player. And I said to somebody one time, he's going to be a great player. And it's a shame he's never going to start an all-star game, because Nomar was there. A-Rod was there. I mean, we didn't know what the future was going to bring, obviously, but Nomar was at the top of his game and still young. I don't remember him ever being tainted with the steroid. And if somebody else has some information about that, please bring it up. But he did have a pretty precipitous decline, right? If I use the word correctly. Where are my people? Let's look up Nomar, since we're talking about, and I like getting it. Here's the thing, the Major League Baseball update, and I want to do this. I hope you guys will continue to do this. I want to update what's going on today, but I want to get into some nostalgic topics as well. So this is fine, and it's a conspiracy theory, but that's fine. Let's look at Nomar's production. Comes up in 96, doesn't play a lot. His real rookie year, 209 hits, 30 home runs, 98 RBIs. He wins the Rookie of the Year, and he's 8th in MVP voting. He stays on that high, 35 homers, 27 homers, 21. He gets hurt in 2001. Has a couple of good years after that. Then he's traded, obviously, to Chicago. And his numbers start to really, as you said, go down. I don't know. So, again, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think it was steroids with Nomar. I think it was injuries. I think it was injuries. He started in 2001, the injury started. He came back with a couple of good years. Not as good as his top years, obviously. I mean, he had years where he had 357 and 372. Maybe he's on the juice. 99 and 2000. What was the year that Brady Anderson hit 50 home runs? There we know. But he did get bad, man. And the decline was pretty steep. I mean, other than 06 with the Dodgers, where he had 20 and 93, hit 303, he didn't even play full seasons. That's his only full season. And that was only 122 games. Out of 5, 6. Maybe it was steroids. I don't know. It's something to think about. Churio and Colt Keith. We're starting to sign long-term. I have Churio on one of my fantasy teams. I think the one in your league, Drew. Now I dropped Churio from that conversation. I was just talking about basically Langford. So I think we were talking about him. We did relate to comments the last couple of years. There just weren't a ton of them. I would expect more of them this year with the guys that we have if they are there that night live. Chris, I asked for no sugarcoating, but if you spiral down negativity over sports, then I'll pull you up and clip you aside. Well, that's a bit negative in itself, isn't it, Chris? You can give me a slap now and again. I do tend to spiral now and again when I really, and you haven't done this, there are times or a topic will really provoke me and I will spiral a little bit. So I'll do my best to keep that in check, but I am who I am. And sometimes I need that slap in the head. Chris, I'm going to say this. I've probably said it a few times. And you may have answered me already, and I apologize if you haven't. I've forgotten. And we'll talk about it Tuesday night, I'm sure. My prediction for first manager fired again is going to be Brian Schneider, and Donnie Baseball will be the manager there in Toronto. I'd love your thoughts on that. And also, Danny, I think I already said this. Do you think, you may not have been here, though. Do you think the Ichiro, Otani, the Otani, this, I don't know what to call it. It's not a scandal, I guess. And again, it doesn't involve him potentially other than anything other than his money was stolen. Do you think this follows the Dodgers around a little bit? And are you concerned about Yamamoto at all? I'd love to get some input on that before we pop off the air today. Do we think that JD Martinez has anything left in the tank to help the Mets? We'll talk about that on Tuesday, but we can jump into it a little bit here. So a couple of other thought-provoking questions. Again, as we get close to the season, it's nice. We're going to see the roster cut downs. It's going to be fun to see the game really get going. We got a local kid, Kevin Smith, who may make the Yankees. I'm trying to remember who he played. I think he was with the A's, I think, last year, if I'm not mistaken. Has been playing much better. He's still got a pretty low batting average, but has played much better in a utility role with the Yankees. And with some of the injuries and DJ LeMahieu looking like he may not be ready for opening day, Kevin Smith from East Greenbush, where we just moved from last June, looks like he may have a good chance to make the team. We'll see how that goes. And I haven't seen any news on that. And as I said it, we probably got some breaking news today. Chris, in 1998, Baseball Digest, I got to tell you a quick story about Baseball Digest. I used to get it when I was a kid, and I don't think it's printed for them anymore. Do they still have a printed magazine you can buy? Chris, I don't think we do here in the States. I think they have a digital version. But I happened upon a garage sale where they were selling boxes and boxes of Baseball Digest from the 70s, the late 60s, but mostly through the 70s. When I was a kid and I was buying it, I didn't have one left. I bought the whole box for like, I don't know, $5. I must have gotten, and in one of my moves, it didn't make it with me. I must have bought 200, 300 issues at that time. Read them all. I remember reading some of it, had a blast with it. Anyway, used to love the Baseball Digest and the sporting news. When you didn't have a proliferation, going off the topic here a little bit, when you didn't have a proliferation of news outlets, right? We didn't have ESPN, you didn't have 24-hour news, the Sunday paper, and you get the long list of batting averages, and they'd list their home runs and their RBIs and the stats that really seem to matter. And I'm told now they don't matter, but they did. They still do, by the way. But I used to love that, the sporting news. And then my dad would pick up the sporting news for me on Sundays. That's when we saw my dad. And then the Baseball Digest. We'd always go to Trash Cigar Store when my dad would pick us up on a Sunday, and I'd get the sporting news. I'd get the Baseball Digest. Oh, God, I used to love them. And then Sunday paper to check up on the latest averages and stuff. There's a way to do it. And I kind of miss that. You could tell I'm a very nostalgic guy. And sometimes I'm just stuck in the 70s. I can't help it. Anyway, back to your comment here. 1998 Baseball Digest printed an article, what's with all the home runs? That's funny. Is that the year? That's the same year. All I ever read in speculation was about Kevin Young, of all players. Bill Mazeroski said something doesn't add up. Bill Mazeroski didn't hit a lot of home runs, but he hit one of the most important home runs ever in the 60 World Series, obviously. Kevin Young, I don't remember a lot of speculation about Kevin Young, but I want to say 98 was around the time Brady Anderson hit 52. No? Let's check that out. I want to see if I'm right. I always like to see if I'm right. Brady Anderson. Somebody's probably already on this in the comments. No, it wasn't. My bad. 1996, he hit 50 home runs. Dropped to 18 the next year, never hit more than 24 again. You know, one-year wonders, and again, we don't have a lot of time for today, but something to think about for future shows. One-year wonders I want to get into one day. And we may use this hour to bring on some baseball guests if I start getting some interviews lined up. Chris F. has been good enough to give me the contact information for Marty Cordova, who some of you may remember with the Twins. I want to say the Twins and the Tigers, and a little bit with Toronto. And I'll be reaching out and getting some time set up with Marty. I don't know whether I'm going to go back to standalone interviews. You guys remember when I did the interview shows? That's how this whole thing started for me, was interviewing guys from the 70s and 80s, basically. So I don't know. And I guess, Chris, I want to ask you, would you prefer to have those interviews done? Because I've done them both ways, and I'm not sure exactly how I like it, because I want to keep them. I do 45 minutes to an hour with guys. And I've done them with comments, and I've done them without. I mean, we have so many people commenting now that I'm not sure we'll get a full interview. And if I do it that way, but I want to give guys a chance to interact with these guys who they may remember from years ago, assuming we get back into this full bore at some point. So do you prefer that, or just hearing, Q&A? And because I can get a lot more questions in that time frame, but we'll see. Danny Fuller says Nomar back in the day is what Trout is to us today. No juice, allegedly. Again, so everybody's tainted, right? And one of the reasons, for one of the problems I have leaving guys out of the Hall of Fame is, even though we know they did it, Bonds, Clemens, obviously, Manny, I don't know who didn't do it. I don't know they all weren't doing it. But again, I don't remember here his name ever came up. And Trout's probably a pretty good comparison, Danny. You got to see Nomar past his prime. He did have one good year, as I pointed out. I like Nomar. Yeah, I'm not, obviously, I hate the Red Sox. Nomar was a guy you had to respect. He was a great ball player. Drew, JD signing shows the Mets are concerned about batting Vientos. Oh, JD Davis. God, how bad's their defense going to be with him out there? Oh, you're talking about JD Martinez. Did they sign? I thought I read, and I could be wrong. Did they not re-sign JD Davis? I may have been dreaming this whole thing. He got released, obviously, when the Giants signed Matt Chapman. Take that back. He signed with the A's. I don't know where I got in my head that he signed with the Mets. I mean, one of these guys has got to play third base, don't they? Batty, I thought, what a great name. Got a great baseball name, and I really thought he was going to be a pretty good player. And he really hasn't got it together in the year and a half or so that he's been playing. And Vientos comes with a lot of hype. I think, and I'm going to do some research this weekend, some more. I think the Mets are in for a tough season, man. Sorry, Met fans. Drew still subscribes to the print edition of the Baseball Digest. I don't. I'm going to have to do that. God, I miss that. And again, it's not the same. I get it. The way it was laid out, the entire way they approached the game and the stories and the crossword puzzle. I loved the Baseball Digest in the 70s, man. Didn't you give me a subscription? I don't think so, Drew. Maybe you did, and I've forgotten because my mind is not what it used to be, especially today. I don't know what's going on, but I'm a very, very foggy. I think hopefully it's just dehydration, and I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I had a stroke last night. Who the hell knows? Oh, kidding. Universe. I don't think you did, Drew. Corner Market in Maine, trash cigar store. So I used to get my comics there too. Rick was a great little store for magazines, comics. Oh gosh, stopped there every Sunday morning with my dad, and he'd buy me whatever I wanted. So, got a lot of comics, sporting news, Baseball Digest, monthly. I think it was only a monthly, if I'm not mistaken. Sporting news was weekly. And then the local papers. I was a paper. I'm 10 years old. I'm reading, newspapers. Oh, Rick, you're too kind. And a lot of you haven't seen me do these. And I've told Chris, you can go back, if you scroll back through the archives of the videos, you can see some of the interviews I've done with Roy White and Todd Stottlemyre. Todd Stottlemyre's a name you'll remember. I enjoyed my Todd Stottlemyre interview a lot. I've interviewed Mark Littell was a great interview. I enjoyed. God rest his soul. He passed away here. Actually, two guys that I interviewed in the last few years have passed away. Mark Littell last year, and more recently Dick Drago, who was one of my last interviews recently. So our best go out to them, and I appreciate your comments, Rick. I do enjoy doing it. The work involved in getting people and preparing. It's a lot easier to prepare for these shows than it is to prepare for a long form interview with people. And I don't like doing 10 minutes with 15 minutes on one of these shows. I could do that, but I like to dive into guys' careers and really talk to them about what went on behind the scenes and their thoughts about today's game and stuff. Chris, Lou Ford, I know the name, has become a historic member of the Long Island Ducks. He's in his mid-40s now and still an active player. He's a player manager with the Ducks. Sparky Lyle managed the Ducks for a while. They've had some good players come through there. Independent baseball has kind of faded in this country. And I want to give you a great, I do this all the time for you guys. If you haven't watched, what's the name of it? You can get this on Netflix if you have it. God, what's Kurt Russell's Bing Russell? Bing Russell, who's Kurt Russell's dad, bought a baseball team in the 70s, I want to say, in Portland. And again, I want to say it was Portland. And I want to give you this before we got to sign off here because it's a great, great documentary. Kurt was actually played on a team a little bit as well. I'm going to find this, damn it. The Battered Bastards of Baseball. It's about it was actually independent baseball. I think they ended up playing with one of the unaffiliated minor leagues, and it's really interesting behind the scenes look at this the whole thing. It was a lot of fun. Taylor Phillips, how you doing? Taylor, give us a little before I got to sign off here at 4:00. Taylor Phillips does a great show on Michigan sports, pretty much, and some national coverage as well. I know he was doing some stuff on the NCAA last night, but a lot of stuff geared toward Detroit sports. But it's important to be watching these different avenues, and I like to check out all the podcasters. Taylor does a great job. Also does a lot of play-by-play work in his real life, I guess, for lack of a better term. But Chris, put in the comments a little blurb, a little promo for your show, because I'd be glad to put it up. And I'm glad you're here, and you're welcome to come in to the show and participate at any time. We have a lot of people, as you can see. We get a lot of comments, and the comments drive my shows. It was a quick hour this week. Looking forward to Tuesday night as well. Remember, Tuesday night with Drew Ellen. It'll be Drew Ehrlich. Ellen will not be involved. We'll be doing our Major League Baseball preview from 7 o'clock till whenever Eastern time here on TGI Sports Talk through Northeast Streaming Sports and also Let's Talk Sports. So check that out. Happy to see Drew. I'll be happy to see Drew and do that show on Tuesday. And Rick points out a couple guys that he enjoyed. I did Ed White. I enjoyed my interview with Ed White a lot. Ed White was fun. Chuck Foreman was fun. The guys were all fun. There was only probably 2 interviews in 2 years I did. I did a lot of interviews, almost every week an interview for 2 years, the first 2 years of COVID. And again, if you scroll back through the video archives, you can find it. I might go a couple minutes long here because I want to give Taylor Phillips a chance to put up his information because I want you guys to have a link to his show. And if not, I've shared his show a couple times on TGI Sports Talk and on my personal page. So check out Taylor's work. He does some great stuff. And Taylor, you can feel free to share to my pages anytime you want. You can share your shows. If I don't do it, you're welcome to do it. So get in. I think you already are like and follow the show, so I appreciate that. So again, Rick, I do appreciate your kind words, and we'll get back into that too. Enjoy the snow in the Northeast tomorrow. Thank you, Drew. I think my guy, we'll go a couple of minutes late. I want to see if Taylor does put that up. If he doesn't, then again, go to the page, check out his show. Go to, I want to say it's the Michigan Sports Truth. I'm probably remembering the exact name right now, but get there. You can see the link. I put up a couple shows here recently. And again, Taylor, you're more than welcome to share your show to my page anytime. What was I going to say? Oh, I think Steve LaPointe's my guy for weather, and he says we're only going to get an inch. That was last night. It might have changed today. We'll see, Drew. But hopefully we're going to get too much. Weather certainly changed. I was outside a little while ago. Helped my wife bring in some groceries, and yikes, wind is still cold. It's not a spring. Can't think about baseball. Anyway, Taylor, if you want to post, go ahead. But I'm going to wrap it up here today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here next Friday at the same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, under Major League Baseball update. Tuesday, we'll have the Major League Baseball preview show at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be on Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness at 8:30 a.m. You can also catch me Sunday morning on the Mac and Jack football show. So anyway, guys, it's been a fun hour, fast hour. Goes fast. You guys are commenting. I love it. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you later. Peace, Engle out.